Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN SC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley and Shaka Hislop here in the studio. Lots to get through today. We'll start with this very, very important and crucial graphic. It is the Premier League table after 2 games, and take a look at that. It's only Manchester City and Arsenal that have got 2 wins out of 2 from the opening 2 matches that we've seen in weeks 1 and 2 in the Premier League so far. For more on this, let's welcome in Julien Laurens and Nader Manua. The reason we
Hold on. Is this like breaking news?
Exactly. How long does that take you to wake up?
48 hours after the weekend.
Exactly. So we've had...
There must be a story here.
We've had 2 games, yeah? We've had 2 games. It's a quiet day, so I've come up with some questions to ask you off the back of what we've seen in the opening 2 matches.
Now I'm getting it.
Here we go.
The conversation we had before we went on air when he said the producer wanted to do something to start the show, and I went, yeah, I'm not doing it.
Right, here we go.
It's Dan's show today.
Right. First question. Craig Burley. What's more likely to happen?
This is what I have to.
It's just all you, Craig. It's all you.
Go on, I'm taking this serious.
Manchester City to go unbeaten,
right?
Or Arsenal to finish top 4.
What's more likely to happen?
Yes. See?
Arsenal to finish top 4.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You've been impressed with them?
I have been. Well, I haven't been surprised by them, because I think both Jesus and Zinchenko are really good signings. As you know, Zinchenko can play midfield as well. Tierney's not even getting a game. But I think it is more difficult to go unbeaten.
Right.
I think there's always a little slip up somewhere. Like last season, a couple of times, Spurs beat them. I think Palace beat them. If memory serves me right. There's always a little slip up. So I think for me, it's more likely, and it wouldn't be a big surprise, although Chelsea's performance, and not scoreline, but their performance was good. So maybe the news of their demise is a little bit premature. But certainly Arsenal are in much better shape to make an assault on the top 4 than they were last year. And if City were to go unbeaten, that would be a heck of a achievement, because there's just always a banana skin somewhere in the Premier League.
Naden, with your City in double bluff ways, you're obviously going to say Arsenal as well.
Yeah, of course. You know, that going unbeaten, it's happened once in 30 years, and I don't anticipate it'll happen again, because I think that the Premier League is more competitive at this point than, say, maybe when Arsenal were able to go on that sort of run. So, yeah, I'm going to go for Arsenal finishing in the top 4, and they do look very good. And I'm with Craig, though, thinking, you know, Chelsea look like they're in a good spot as well. And I suppose, you know, I thought United were going to finish top 4, but thankfully I don't have to worry about that for the rest of the season. That's been dealt with already. So, yeah, I think it's
do you really think the
for
Premier League's more competitive than it was when Arsenal did that run?
I think,
There's a lot of bad teams, aren't there?
No, they're not bad right now, though. And I think at this stage, you know, tactically, I think they're a little bit better, and I think they could potentially get a result if things sort of go their way. I think for as much as City could get as many points as they can, you know, they have done in years gone by. You look last year and they're dropping points to Palace, they're dropping points to Southampton. So there's never really going to be a guarantee that everything's going to be fine for them, even being 2-0 down in the final game of last season. I think there is just a different sort of array of teams who could potentially take points away from City, and, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it might not mean that they don't win a title and the like, but, you know, a loss, you know, who really thinks they're going to be able to go 38 games unbeaten in the Premier League if we're still calling it the best league in the world? I don't think the two things can coexist.
No, they look good, Shaq.
They do look good.
Yeah, they do. But I'm with Craig and Nader. I think it's more like, well, I have Arsenal finishing my top 4 anyway before the season started. And you just wonder with City, as much as they've improved, the Champions League is still their holy grail. And once they get into the knockout stages of that competition, you just wonder how much that proves a distraction. So I think it's more likely Arsenal finish top 4.
Jules?
Yeah, I agree with the boys. I think Arsenal top 4 as well. I think City can do it, of course. And the form that Liverpool and City have shown in the last 4 years, there could be a season where everything goes their way, but you need the perfect season. You need no injuries, but certainly not to key players. You need a bit of luck to go your way as well. And so far it's proven difficult since Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp have arrived at the club. They've lost 1 game in a season, 2 sometimes. And of course they can go the whole way unbeaten, but I agree it's a hell of an achievement. So I go for Arsenal to finish top 4.
My next brilliant question I came up with.
Wait for this.
What's more likely to happen? Manchester United finish top 4 or get relegated?
Oof.
It's more. It's more likely they will finish top 4. They're not getting relegated.
No.
It's not happening. No. Although a couple of years down in the Championship would
imagine that.
maybe sort them out a little bit. But
In
no.
what way?
Can I just say neither? It'd be a heck of a run, wouldn't it?
It would be one heck of a
More
run.
likely to be in the top 4.
So, of course, they're looking still to add players, Jules, to their squad. Casemiro from Real Madrid. This seems a bit left field, certainly from Casimiro's perspective. Why would you want to go to United?
Exactly. That's probably the question that, or the thing that he answered his agent when the agent said, "Hey, guess who? You would never guess who called. You would never guess who called." And you're like, "What is it? You know, a big European club?" Well, no, it's Manchester United. It makes no sense. It would make no sense apart from the money, I guess maybe. But Casemiro, I don't think right now needs the money. He needs to stay in the best team in Europe, which is his current team. In a way, I respect the courage that United have to go and try to get a Casemiro, because some of the other names that they currently targeting is nowhere near the level of Casemiro. So for him, they decided to go big and high. For other positions, they're clearly going low and cheap. But I guess if you don't try, you don't know if he will succeed or not. It's worth trying, I guess, and then until they say no, then you know you need to move on to your next target, who'll probably be like a random player for the French second division or something.
It does seem a bit late to be trying for somebody like Casemiro, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah.
The only way this makes sense is if Ronaldo has assumed the de facto sporting director role at United, and he's making those calls. Otherwise, I'm really not sure what's convincing Casemiro to go to United.
I don't think Ronaldo's even convincing him, is he?
He's trying to get himself up. He's negotiated a straight swap.
He's a swap deal.
Casemiro, let's do a straight swap.
Who is it that's doing the deals? Murto or Arnold, one of them or whatever, I don't care.
Right.
But whenever, I've got this visage now of whenever Man United's number goes on anybody's phone, it just says spam risk. Spam risk. Spam
It's
risk.
alongside your car warranty.
Spam risk.
United.
Somebody just got to pick your phone up, it's spam risk.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm not picking it.
Jules, obviously Rabiot's off now as well. He wanted too much money.
It's not completely off. We wrote with the website with Rob tonight that it's certainly stalling, let's put it that way, because they're too far away from each other's valuation and each other what they're ready to pay and what they want United to pay. On the other hand, I think the fact that United are now in the Champions League, there's maybe a feeling within the Rabiot camp that United need to compensate the fact that they will only be Europa League and no Champions League football for Rabiot. And we know that Véronique Rabiot, his mum and agent, is tough, is very tough in business. But United are saying that it's not completely off the table. So I'm sure there will be more talks. It might not lead to anything, but there might be a way where they can find an agreement in between what one is ready to pay and what the other one wants the other one to pay. But right now, it certainly looks less positive than he did look a few days ago, for sure.
Oh, I mean,
You're right.
yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you, having watched them at Brentford, ask for an extra 50 grand a week? I mean, have you watched?
Mum, I need you to up
Have you
this
watched
deal.
that game? Because listen, he knew Jules was talking about the European football, but everybody's camp knows that's where they are.
Yeah.
have been for 2 or 3 months. But having watched them at the weekend, I would not be surprised if somebody went, I tell you what, raise the bar and see if they want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, because who wants to walk into that? Apart from Casemiro.
Yes.
I mean, why would you leave the current La Liga champions and European champions for this dross?
Nadem, obviously you live in Manchester. What is the vibe amongst the United fans at the moment?
Well, they're still wearing the shirts, but it seems more ironic at the moment. They're obviously not in a very good spot. And I think off the back of this game, obviously, you know, every time Man United don't win or every time Man United lose, it's not about the opposition, it's about the Man United Inquisition. There's been tons of that nationally. And so much so that one of their ex-players and pundits, very prominent pundit, was saying that he thinks with this current squad, he thinks they're going to finish in the bottom 10. You know, obviously he's wrong because I know they're going to finish 4th at the end of the season.
Of course.
But like, you know, of course, you know. But they're obviously not in a great spot, and you do wonder how things are going to change because, you know, they obviously have issues going on upstairs and alike, but that starting 11 isn't performing anywhere near as well as they could do. And it's not to say that starting 11 is, you know, better than, say, 16, 17 other teams, but the fact is, you know, it's not going right for them. What's going to change? Is it going to be Casimiro coming in? Is it going to be someone else coming in? Or is it like a wholesale change? Because, you know, they've only got 2 weeks left, and before you know it, as some people are saying, they'll probably be a bottom half team if they carry on playing the way they are doing right now.
It's a magic wand, isn't it? Hey, you know the other thing is I do think that in a roundabout way, Liverpool's start is actually worse for them in the weekend coming up.
Right.
It's this weekend.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Because they need a kickstart, and it'll come. They're too good for it not to come, and it has to start somewhere. And I'll be like, do you know what? Klopp will be drumming it into them. The season has to start now, and that could spell even more bad news for Man United. Albeit they'll be without Nunez up front, but in some ways they'll go back to the tried and trusted.
Yeah. And taking a look at
another question.
And taking a look at some of the attackers that they've been linked to, Jules. It just seems to be just a complete scattergun approach of just anyone who, or anyone and everyone who's maybe scored goals at some stage in their lives.
Exactly. I mean, this is exactly that. Which is, again, I mean, we don't need to go again over the lack of strategy and the complete mess that they scouting network and they recruitment department, let's put it that way, is. But it shows again, all the players they're going for right now, and trust me, they're calling a lot of agents and a lot of players. There's tall players, short players, quick players, slow players, good with the ball, bad with the ball. There's one with 1 year left on his contract, others with 4 years left on the contract. There's nothing. There's not a profile where Ten Hag must have said, okay, this is the qualities that I need here. Please put that into your data or in all your scouting reports or anything, and I want a list of 5 players who fit the profile I want for my style of football. No, they've gone for completely different profiles. They know. There's just no logic in some of the names that they link to, but not just linked, the people that they are actually calling on the phone. I'm just again baffling, but we've been baffled since the start of the summer and for many summers before, so just nothing changes at the club.
This has to be the most gigantic dartboard in history.
Yep.
It's in the recruitment control room at Man United, obviously, and somebody's eyes closed going, where'd that land?
Yep.
Arnautovic, bid 9 million. And throws the next one, where'd that land? Vardy, Casemiro. I mean, it's like, honestly, I mean, this is Man United, for God's sake. Where is the plan?
I don't think there is one.
And the reports of Ten Hag is echoing Ralph Rangnick, to be fair to him, and I've been quite hard on Ralph Rangnick. But the reports are that Eric Ten Hag is already letting it be known through his sources that it is even worse than he thought. Yeah. And he is in the quicksand at the moment and getting absolutely nowhere. I mean, what a disgrace in terms of the way this place has been run. And they're going to leave it. I mean, they might pull something out the hat, when it looks like they're going to leave it.
But what are they going to pull out the hat?
Just a rabbit. And he's going to play. He's going to scurry around and probably bid about 12 million for him.
Yeah, exactly. And did you say you wanted another question?
No, I didn't want the other question.
Yeah, well, another one's coming. Who's more likely to finish third, Chelsea or Spurs?
Well, I had Chelsea just outside. I had them in 5th, primarily because they have got no more business done, and goals might be a problem. I think they will remedy that before the end of the transfer window. Although Spurs, I think, struggle sometimes, they did beat Man City last year. I think they will flat trap bully a lot of the other teams with their goals. And I think Chelsea will dominate other teams, the weaker teams in the Premier League, but if they don't get a striker in, then that could cost them in games that they dominate heavily. I think for me, and you saw it, and I said to you at the weekend, the big game changer for him is to be able to go to his bench now. He didn't really have that last year. He had it to a certain extent, but he couldn't go to his bench, and he brought on Mora, he brought on Perisic, he brought on Basuma, who I think is an excellent player, and he brought on Richarlison, and he was able to change the shape. And I think for those reasons, I'm going to stick with Spurs in 3rd, because that was my pick.
Shaq?
My pre-season pick was Spurs 3rd, Chelsea 5th.
You don't have to refer to that. We were reflecting on what we've seen.
From what we've
figured out that he copied me.
Right. What we've seen in 2 games so far this season hasn't given me enough reason to change my mind. And while I thought Chelsea were a lot better than their football was a lot better than I expected it against Spurs, my concern coming into the season was where would they get the goals needed to finish top 4. And so far, 3 goals, 1 penalty, 2 defenders have scored. I just wonder if they don't get that striker in that they need, a striker that will score 20, 25 goals a season, that they will finish well outside that top 4.
Nathan?
Yeah, so I thought Chelsea were the better side on the weekend, and this surprised me a little bit because I didn't think that's the way the game was going to pan out. But at the end of the day, you look at Spurs and you think they could have played a lot better, but they still managed to come away with a point. So I guess for them, they're going to be thinking more positively about that and about the games they're going to be lying ahead. And I think I agree with what the guys are saying, that, you know, Spurs might bully a lot of other teams around the division, and ultimately that's kind of what you need to be finishing in those top 4 spots. You know, those head-to-heads against Chelsea and the like, they might matter, but all the other games really do matter. So I think I'm kind of leaning towards them at this moment in time to finish above Chelsea. But you know, it's so long to go left in the season, and you know, if 1 or 2 players go down injured for either side, before you know it, they're going to have to transform the way that they play. So, but for now, I think I'm gonna have to take Spurs. I think
Spurs third as well, Jules.
Yeah, for me as well for now. But again, I think if Chelsea sign the players that they want in the next 2 weeks, then I think they will shift the momentum. And on Sunday, I was worried, and that's why I put Chelsea out of the top 4 when we did the predictions at the end of July. I was less worried after seeing them against Spurs on Sunday when they deserve to win, really. But I still think they need 2 or 3 more players to add. And if they do add, and I believe they will add them, whether that's Fofana and De Jong and Aubameyang, for example, or 3 others, but they will add to the squads, I think it will make them more competitive. And then maybe they could finish third.
OK, we've got Spurs finishing third, yeah? Mm-hmm. Collectively. What's going to be bigger?
Is this another question?
The points gap between third and second, or second and first?
Second and first.
That'll be bigger.
I think so. I think City have already shown how much they've improved over last season. That question we're still asking of Liverpool, how much better they are. And at the same time, while we debate who finishes in the top 4, there's not a lot to give between Arsenal, Spurs and Chelsea. And I think they too now have closed the gap
right.
to Liverpool.
Could Spurs catch Liverpool?
No. And I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. I think there'll be a bigger gap between second and third.
Right.
I think Liverpool, of course, far from ideal. And I think City do look ominously good. But I think Liverpool will just badger away at them with that, like they did last year. Miles behind, and just kept chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. Yeah, Mane's a huge loss, I understand all that, and others are going to have to step up. But I still think there's a gulf. Although Spurs have certainly improved and Arsenal have, there's still a gulf.
Right.
And we talk about Spurs bringing some players in, and we talk about Arsenal, but then they've brought in a guy from Benfica who's young, physical, too physical last night, but young and physical and can score goals. So it's not like they've lost money and haven't brought anybody in. So I'm going to go second to third. There is still too big a gulf to even be down the coattails going for the championship.
Nathan?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think if you look at, say, City and Liverpool, even if they have more of a down year, they might be getting in the late 80 points to be sort of going for that Premier League title. Whereas for Spurs, to see them break 80 points, I'm not sure if they're there right at this moment in time. So I'm going to say second to third, but I don't expect City and Liverpool to be posting the same sort of points they did last year, even though City have started so well this year.
Go on, Jules.
Yeah, same for me, between second and third as well. I think Spurs will finish third, as we've been saying. I think they're going to improve, but I'm not sure they can have the same consistency over the whole 38 matches that Liverpool and City will have, because that's what they do. That's why they're so good. It's because they're so consistent week in and week out. And I don't expect Spurs to have that consistency. So I expect them to drop beyond Liverpool more than Liverpool behind City.
Right, and knowing how predictable you are.
Yes, go on.
You do predictability better than anybody.
Yeah, of course. It's easy.
There's going to be a question.
Go on.
About winning a fight between managers.
No, we've done that quite extensively over the last couple of days. Oh, you're disappointed by that.
He was ready for that question.
I was ready for that one. I thought standard, gold standard.
I think everyone pretty much went for Conte. If it was Conte
against Tuchel.
I've no interest
now.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
Well, did you ask Don yesterday?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Yeah. He was talking about ribs or something.
Yes. Don was talking about punching.
Did he mention Twitter? I don't know.
I don't know what Don's
disappointed in you.
We've seen Jesus, of course, come in, set the world on fire so far. Haaland started well as well for City. Kane getting his first goal. Who's finishing top scorer?
Haaland. I still think Erling Haaland is going to bag. I'm going to guess we're talking league goals here. I still think Haaland gets upwards of 30, and will finish the league as leading scorer.
Haaland top scorer, Jules?
I said Mo Salah, I think, in my predictions, and obviously last night was tough for him, and I think he might struggle with the adaptation of Darwin Núñez and Mane not being there anymore. But I will have to stick with Salah. I think Haaland, between Kane, Jesus, and Haaland, I think Haaland will score the more goals of the three, but I have to stick with Salah overall being the top goal scorer.
Nathan?
Yeah, so, it's a shame he's not mentioned, but I think Salah will be in that mix. But I went for Kane to be top scorer, actually, and I think that's just because I can't picture 2 seasons in a row where he's not really part of that conversation at the top of that sort of leaderboard. And I know Haaland will score a ton of goals, but I just feel if Spurs are going to be successful this year, Kane's going to have to score an awful lot. And I think, obviously, he's not had the best start again, but we know Harry Kane doesn't really play in August anyway. So I think he'll be fine come the end, and I reckon he's going to be number 1. Then maybe Haaland, Salah in at 2 and 3, and then maybe Jesus in 4 with about 15 goals.
I think you saw a little bit of difference in City, even though it was Bournemouth, newly promoted team, and they were all. Shaq and I went for 6, didn't quite get there, but it could have done. But throwing a few early balls in, he was a little unlucky not to score. He was stretching in a couple, but I think that's what City will do this year. They will mix and match it a little bit more, and they'll throw it in the box a little bit earlier with quality and let him go and attack it. So yeah, I've gone for Haaland as my top scorer and player of the year.
Meanwhile, away from my brilliant questions, there are rumours suggesting that Newcastle want Christian Pulisic on loan from Chelsea. Jules, any chance of this happening?
I think he will need some game time, and certainly I'm not sure how much he would get at Chelsea if he stays there. And it was already the case last season between the injuries and the rotation, but also the fact that I think Tuchel had other players to play ahead of him in the pecking order. And now if you add Raheem Sterling, and if maybe there's another 1 or 2 who come, I think it could become difficult for Pulisic. So I don't think it would be a bad idea at all. We know that Newcastle are looking for a wide player. They've tried other names before, other targets, like a Moussa Diaby, for example, at Bayer Leverkusen, that they could not get. And Pulisic, who already knows the league, I think could be a good fit in there. So I think he's certainly one to keep an eye on. And if you're Pulisic, I think you think twice about it for sure.
Seb's very excited. He said that Pulisic will walk straight into the Newcastle starting 11.
What, hot take, Seb? Yeah. I mean, well, it won't be that. It's down to performance. But, I've said for a long time, I think this kind of move would be the perfect move for him.
Yeah.
Going to a club who are not fighting for all the real big stuff at this moment in time, but are trying to rebuild and have a slightly weaker squad and a slightly less quality, and I think he has more chance of playing off it. Clearly, that's a silly statement to make in some sense, but it's no guarantee. But and there's a lot of people this side of the pond. Oh, he shouldn't be. He's better than that. Well, he's not. I mean, if he's not playing, and Jill said they go and bring more players in.
Yeah.
This guy needs regular game time. He needs to shake off those niggling injuries, put a string of games together. Newcastle are a club on the up. They've got money. Eddie Howe's been given a new contract. They finished the season really well. It's a terrific club to go and play at that stadium with those fans. So why wouldn't you? I mean, this is a bit of a no-brainer, whether it's Newcastle or somebody else just below the level where Chelsea are.
As the mayor of Newcastle, would you like to see this happen?
Yeah, I think it's a good fit. I think Pulisic is an upgrade on Almiron on that right-hand side. I can't see him getting in on the left-hand side ahead of Sam Maximum. And it's a position I think that he'll do well. I don't think Pulisic is going to get that much game time at Chelsea. He needs to look elsewhere. And it's a good fit. It's a good fit. Newcastle, a team on the up, just judging alone by how their second half to last season.
Meanwhile, Dele Alli, of course, now at Everton, has been linked to a move to Besiktas. It's incredible when you take a look at the arc of his career, Nadim. It just seems to continually to go down now. Are you surprised how kind of quickly this all seems to have happened?
To be honest, I don't know the exact reasons as to why things started going south for him at Spurs, but you can see that there's just something that's not quite there, something that's missing. And, there's a thing about playing and not playing well, but when you're not really being given the opportunities as such, then, it is a strange position to be in. When you look at the sort of impact he had when he first came in as a young player, he was playing for, I think it was MK Dons, and before you know it, he's, as a starter for England, he's one of the most hyped up players in English football. To see the way he's kind of petered out is, it's a shame for him, but at the end of the day, this is going to be down to him to sort of try and fix some of these issues that exist because, as I said, there's one thing about playing and not playing well, but when people aren't choosing you to play, the people who see you on a day-to-day basis obviously don't trust you and think that there's something missing from your game, which seems crazy for somebody with so much experience at sort of the highest level. So I guess it's going to be a case of, you know, him really going out and trying to find somewhere to play football. But if it's a case of where he can't stay in England anymore and he has to go to Turkey, and that kind of shows where his career is at this moment in time, because speaking as somebody who's been around this generation, you know, once you get to like close to 30 years of age and there's a chance that you might be available at some for like a free or anything like that, you get a lot of contact from people in Turkey. So for him to be basically in the same boat that I was, you know, I think that's a bit of a tough situation. Let's just put it that way.
Were you not tempted to go to Turkey, Nadim?
Yeah, I was semi-tempted till I realised that some of the teams were interested in me. They don't necessarily always pay on time. So I thought, you know, from a career perspective, it's probably not the best move. So yeah, I left that one well alone.
You come to ESPN, you just wait.
Put that invoice in. You're good to go. Final question, Jules. Who do you prefer having on the show, Gab or Nadim?
Don.
Do you mean on the Ned and Jules show?
Oh, yes. Wow. Take that, Gab. I think it's fair to say that Nadim's legs look slightly better than Gab's do when he comes in wearing shorts.
I bet when he comes back, he just takes the door off the hinge.
I'm back. Get back. Get out of the big boy chair, Jules. You can check out the latest podcast available now on the website. Now, in case you missed this at the weekend, all is not well at PSG between Kylian Mbappe and Neymar. You can see Mbappe there having his penalty saved early on in the first half of their tie against Montpellier. Neymar then steps up to take a second penalty that they win just before the break. You can see Mbappe there trying to get the ball off him. Neymar refused to give it to him. He then scores the penalty. And what put this under the microscope even more is that on Twitter, someone tweeted out, now it's official, Mbappe is who takes the pens at PSG. Obviously, this is something contractual because in no club in the world that as Neymar would he be second choice pen taker, none. It looks like because of the contract, Mbappe is the owner of PSG. Of course, we see thousands of tweets like this. Why it's significant is that Neymar liked that tweet. Jules will be desperate to talk to you about this. What's the reaction been in France?
Yeah, pretty extraordinary, really. I mean, PSG fans have looked away with a lot of interest because the season has started so well, and we're only 2 weeks in the Ligue 1 campaign, and already there is controversy and drama, which is so PSG, is so PSG-esque. Really, I think what was the most interesting, and I wrote about it for the website, which is going to be published tomorrow, is that, remember, there was a penalty gate 4 years ago between Edinson Cavani and Neymar, and at the time, Unai Emery didn't want to intervene, neither were the club really or the sporting director at the time. This time it was very different. First, Sergio Ramos, straight after the game on Saturday, got the two players together, spoke to them in the dressing room to say, hey, let's forget about the tension, let's forget what happened on the pitch today. And then on Sunday, the next day, Luis Campos, the new sporting director, also had a word with both Neymar and Mbappe. And Campos is probably the one at the club who knows Mbappe the most, or certainly is the closest to Mbappe, because we know, because Mbappe brought him in at the club as a new sporting director and got Leonardo sacked. However, what that means as well is that Campos can see Mbappe and talk to him, maybe like no one else before, like no other people before, sorry, apart from maybe Kylian Mbappe's dad and I guess Didier Deschamps. And Campos sat him down and said, listen, this is not okay. This is not good. What happened on Saturday against Montpellier at the Parc des Princes in front of all the cameras, everybody was watching. This is not good. You need to sort that out. And he didn't just mention the penalties. He also mentioned that incident where Mbappe, just before the break, stops running and throws his arms in the air because Vitinha didn't pass the ball to him and instead chose to put the ball onto the right-hand side to Messi. So I think it was very interesting to see Campos telling off Mbappe for the attitude that he had on Saturday.
What's happened, Jules? Because when he made that move from Monaco, the rhetoric was, he's just a mature kid, he's got good people around him, he's not going to be distracted by other things. Yet what we've seen, and kind of epitomised by this game, is someone whose maybe ego has got away with it.
Yeah, maybe. He's become a superstar, that's for sure, which he wasn't really when he signed in that summer 2017, only a little bit after Neymar, or rather the club only a few days after Neymar. And at the beginning, he was very much like, I'm here to serve Neymar. He's the big star. He's the boss here, and I'm just here to help him. Things have changed in 5 years, and things have changed even more since that contract that PSG gave to Mbappe a few months ago now, where he has extended powers at the club, where he's consulted for a lot of decisions that the club has taken already, he's taking right now and will be taking in the future. And I think that has maybe sort of unbalanced the dressing room in a way. I think I was told that Neymar was very surprised by that, with the powers that Mbappe has now. I was also told that Mbappe, for example, didn't really appreciate last season and the season before that Neymar took so many liberties in terms of timekeeping and discipline and attitude as well. So they used to be friends and really close, and really in the last 2 seasons they drifted away from each other. The arrival of Messi, I think, became that sort of the bromance with Neymar was reunited. The bromance between Hakimi and Mbappe kind of was created as well when Hakimi joined the club. So now they're further away from where they used to be as teammates and friends, and that's also maybe explains what happened on Saturday.
I mean, there's no doubt. We talked about it the other day. The penalty stuff is children-like, but the throwing the arms up and literally turning the opposite way is just, it's out of order. But he is a superstar, and his ego at the moment is on a runaway train. And I don't know when that train's going to stop. Might stop when he gets to Real Madrid, might not. I don't know. But whether they have success or not, and whether they bring new people in or not, and whether they try and fight these things or not, at the end of the day, at Paris Saint-Germain, the tail is wagging the dog.
Right.
And that's been going on for quite some time. That is difficult to stop.
What do you make of it, Nathan?
To be fair, the way Craig just described it there, I think it sums it up perfectly. The tail is wagging the dog. And it is crazy to see the players have that sort of leverage in a place where, you know, that stuff you did in terms of that counter-attack and walking off, like that is objectively a disgrace. You don't want somebody in your team doing anything like that. But then which other players on the field have got the ability to be able to go up to him and he actually listen? Because obviously, you know, he's the big superstar now and he has the powers which come from that contract. So what's the real value in coming to say to him, could you please do something else? Or could you please just do the right thing? You know, it's a shame that it's reached this sort of point because, you know, a lot of people do pay attention to him since he is a global superstar and they want to see his skills and all this. But it's also just, you know, it's bad professionalism to be arguing with teammates about penalties, to be deciding that you decide that you don't want to work anymore. And that's just accepted. I think it kind of misses the point. So for somebody with so much talent, you know, it's a shame that this is the situation it's in. And ultimately, you know, if they are to be successful in the way that they want to be, they do need him to be playing well and need him to be working hard for the team, because at some point they'll come up against a team which has stars in it, which has that sort of work ethic and everybody's on board. And, you know, ultimately they might end up coming short like they have done in seasons gone by.
You take a look at the penalty situation then, Jules. Statistically, Neymar and Sergio Ramos are better than Mbappe. What happens?
That's interesting. I mean, Galtier decided, and we will never know really. I mean, maybe one day we will know. Someone will say if Galtier has decided to pick Kylian as the #1 penalty taker because he believed that he's better, even if the stats, as we saw, don't show it, but that he's better than Sergio Ramos and Neymar, or if he was told by the club, hey, you know, Mbappe wants to take penalties, so you have to name him as the #1 penalty taker. We will see. We will see what happens the next time they've got a pen. I think the best story that I was told about this all is that Neymar said to Luis Campos that he was confused. Basically, Mbappe is the #1 penalty taker. Neymar is the #2, which means that Neymar will take a penalty if one, the foul is committed on Mbappe, or if Mbappe is not on the pitch anymore. So when that second penalty happened against Montpellier on Saturday, Neymar took the ball, but Mbappe was still there, and the foul was not on Mbappe, it was a handball in the box. So really, Neymar knew that Kylian, even if he missed the first one, should have taken that one. And yeah, he said to Campos, I was confused because I thought, well, because he missed the first one, now it's the second one, it has to be the second penalty taker who takes the second one because the first penalty taker missed the first one. Which is like, come on, don't BS us. He knew exactly what he was doing. I think he wanted to make a statement in a way saying like, okay, maybe you're the #1 penalty taker, but look, this is what I can do. I can take the ball in front of everybody here, and you can ask for the ball, and I won't give it to you, and now I'm going to score because this is what I do. I score penalties more than you. And again, I think he is a bit of a like school playground stuff, but in a way, I can understand why Neymar did it.
It's all fun and games now, right? Early in the season, started well, going to dominate Ligue 1 again, probably. It's all fun and games at the moment, that's fine. What if Mbappe goes through the season, misses another couple, but throws the tantrum, I'm still the number one, and Galtier doesn't change it, and then they get to the Champions League, might be a semi-final, might be a knockout, might be the final. Shouldn't you have the guy that's giving you more of a guarantee, not a guarantee, but more of a guarantee in that position over the ego who may, to say Mbappe might miss 2 or 3 penalties during the year and stipulate through his strength, I want to take it. If we're in the final, I want to take it. That's fine. But that's not putting your best foot forward to win the game. That's putting your best foot forward to suit you. And that's when it could become a problem in that competition, if indeed it ever went to penalties.
What's telling, Shay?
Might not, though.
You can't imagine this ever happening, Real Madrid, Liverpool,
anywhere else,
Manchester City, in today's current environment.
No, you can't. And when we were discussing on the weekend, I said I think one of the worst things to happen to Mbappe is not to go to Real Madrid, where the club is the star, and you have to fit in. You have to fit into who that club is, as opposed to you being everything that the club kind of revolves around. And the issue for PSG, and it will continue, and why they cannot spend their way out of their issues, is the genie's out of the bottle. And what we are seeing, it's very hard to put that genie back in. You sign Neymar, you allow him all sorts of liberties that he would get nowhere else, that nobody else in football, as far as I am aware of, was getting. Mbappe sees that, and now that he's the star of the club, he assumes that exact same position, that he can take liberties in the way that Neymar was. Now, the only way for PSG to somehow move past this is wholesale changes. And because it's not just about shifting Neymar and Mbappe, because somebody else who's seen this going on for the last few years, they're going to assume that same position. And PSG's problems are all their own making and playing out right in front of our very eyes now. And
of reports this weekend, of course, Jules, that Mbappe wants Neymar out now of the club completely. You must be happy with all of this going on.
Whose party are you going to go to?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't. This is not true, and certainly the club are denying it. What I think is true is that the club, and we said it many times before, at some point opened the door for Neymar to go. I mean, and by pure coincidence, of course, he's been PSG's best player right now, because I think the kick in the back that he got with that news, I think he wanted to prove a point, and that's why he's come back maybe sharper than he's ever been at PSG. But I don't think Mbappe said, I want him out. I don't think Mbappe either said, oh, don't let him go or don't sell him. I don't think that he had anything to say. Maybe because he was happy that they were opening the door for a departure of Neymar. I don't know, but certainly it didn't come from Mbappe to sell Neymar. I think within the club, for the end of this like bling bling policy or bling bling era that they had before, they thought that Neymar had been too disappointed in the past 18 months, that maybe it was the right time for him to go and to try to find him another club. In the end, they could not find him another club, and now he's in a very good form. So you would not sell him now, really. It doesn't make any sense considering he's your best player. But for the down the line, let's see how long he will keep this consistency and this level and this sharpness.
I bet this sounds like a great dressing room to be in during the week. Man, Shaq, when you used to go into the dressing room, Nathan, when you go into the dressing room, you love going into the dressing room on a Monday or a Tuesday because the boys were great and it was a laugh, and somebody was always picking on what you were wearing or your haircut or whatever it was, or the weekend. I'm kind of getting the feeling they're all sitting waiting and Kylian Mbappe coming in. Oh, did we have a good enough game at the weekend or not?
Well done.
Oh, isn't this a lot of laughs in this dressing room?
Are you team Mbappe or team Neymar, Jules?
I'm team PSG. I mean, you want a question. I won't choose.
Team fence.
Jules will not be invited back then on extra time, given that answer. You can check out Nathan, Craig and Shaka, who will be with us. There's Don and his terrible Buckingham Palace gate tattoo.
All right. Seen better sights.
Too many questions.
There you are. Be sure, though, to stay tuned. Extra Time is next. Nathan is back as we answer some of your questions. Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Thanks for your tweets. Nathan's with us, Craig and Shaka as well. Shaka, why aren't more people pointing to Ronaldo's return as a reason for Manchester United's downfall? They finished second in the league in the 2021 season and had 7 points in 3 games before he joined last season.
I think United finishing second a couple of seasons ago had a lot to do with the pandemic and how it affected other clubs. At the same time, it's really hard to point the finger at your leading scorer.
Right.
As the reason for your downfall. I just don't get how that adds up at all.
Where does Ronaldo rank in the power rankings of United's downfall, Nathan?
I don't think it's that high, to be honest. As Shaka said, he was their top scorer. And also in that pandemic year, I think that was when Liverpool perhaps weren't at their best as well. So, there were a few things that led to United possibly finishing a bit higher than maybe they should have done according to, say, normal measures being in play. So when he came back, I'll be honest, I remember the sort of sound that the United fans were making, and it seemed like the best thing in the world that ever had happened to them. Their talisman was back. He'd come from Juventus. This was going to be the second coming where they won everything. And it didn't quite work out, so maybe that wasn't necessarily down to him because he still did his job, but lots of other people didn't, and their stock is a lot lower now than it was a year ago, whereas Ronaldo seems to be in pretty much the same spot.
Reports are suggesting that he's very sulky, eating on his own. You can relate to those sort of moods.
I'd never eat on my own. Never.
Didn't you eat on the own when you were on loan? Were you on loan at Derby in the hotel when David Platt just ignored you?
Oh, no, I wasn't on loan. I just signed and I didn't have a house yet.
Right.
I was living in the hotel.
Yep.
And David Platt, who I knew a little bit because I played against him, and somebody that Shaka knows, had just signed for Nottingham Forest, Stern John, and they sat at a table for 2.
And left you on your own?
And I sat at a table for 1. In the Hilton at East Midlands Airport. Actually, I was quite pleased to be sitting there on my own.
What a treat.
Anyway, let's go back to Ronaldo. I'm sure he's not short of a few quid, but I don't ever remember him writing almost $1 billion in transfer signings.
Right.
Which I would point to as more the reason why United are struggling than the fact he's come in and scored goals. There you go.
Yesterday,
I recommend eating on your own as well sometimes.
Yep.
2.5 months in a hotel. I've done that a few times. Whoa.
Oh dear. Well, it's just not.
What? God.
Nothing.
No.
No.
Move on, Dan. Move on.
No.
We discussed yesterday, Don was saying how Paolo Di Canio was a pain, basically, in the West Ham dressing room.
I know when Stevie said he wasn't when he came to Sheffield Wednesday.
Yes, yeah. Well, Stevie wouldn't lie about it.
No, I know.
So basically, like,
I'm not saying he's lying about it. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I thought, he went to Sheffield Wednesday in '97.
Yeah.
Stevie wasn't at Sheffield Wednesday.
Well, I thought Stevie would have known him when he was there.
I'm not sure about that.
But everyone else kind of tread on eggshells. He's very much the alpha. And then, so the question is, what's Craig's opinion on being the Paolo Di Canio of ESPN FC?
I'm not. What do you mean?
Well, in the fact that, sometimes we have to be careful around
just come
you.
in and do my job.
Walk on eggshells around. Be careful what we ask you. Nobody
has to be careful. Whatever they ask me, you have to be careful about the answer.
Right.
If you ask me a silly question.
Okay, yep.
Which you do many times. And I don't like getting asked questions that I was asked the day before and the day before.
Well, that's just what happens in a daily show. There's going to be a little bit.
We'll come up with new stuff.
There's going to be a little bit of repetition, isn't there?
No, not that much.
Are you uploading Dan's questions?
No. You look quite pleased with
that was different.
I wondered why he never lifted his head when I came in today. I thought, he's just not talking to me. And he was looking very serious.
Right, his
on his computer. I was like,
Shaka was on the computer as well. Do you know why Shaka's in today?
Because he's scheduled to be in.
Because we've got top 10 goals and we can't just have you because you'll go, oh, another goal, great, another goal, great. Who wants to see?
What's he going to do? He's a goalie.
Who wants to see goals? Who wants to see highlights?
Exactly. I hate highlights.
People want to
like
watch
football.
People want to watch football, don't they? They just want to see you ranting and raving.
I don't rant and rave. I'm honest about it.
Ah, dear.
Oh, there's a goal. Oh, there's a goal. Oh, there's number 8.
People like goals.
Do they?
Yes.
Not me.
Not me. I hate goals. Nathan,
well, I like goals when they're happening.
Nathan, did you have
I don't like 3-4-day-old goals.
What do you mean? You don't want to see them again?
No, I'm not really. Seen them once.
Okay. Nathan, did you have a Paolo Di Canio character that you used to play with?
There's a quite obvious one in Joey Barton, yeah. Everyone was essentially walking on eggshells. You know, he said so many incredible things during his career looking back, and in fairness to him, I've got to try and be fair, apparently now him as a manager, when he tries to tell the players what to do, he admits that him as a player, he was somewhat of a clown. And he said basically, don't do what I did when I was younger. So, you know, that's the moment of appreciation because he did some wild stuff. Not least of all, basically saying that what we're doing on the field is wrong, what the manager says is wrong, strength and conditioning is wrong, running is wrong, training is wrong, this team's wrong, football's wrong, and he's right. So yeah, live with that basically.
Who does he manage now, Nathan?
Bristol Rovers.
So do you just cheer against them for every match?
Hey, listen, I have got a lot of time on my hands if I'm looking for the Bristol Rovers score. For now, that we don't need to talk about them on ESPN FC, so let's just move on. And until they're playing in the Premier League, you know, let's just leave it there.
Yeah, just hate watching the Bristol Rovers.
Actually, you lied. He came in today to book flights.
Pardon?
He came in.
He could have done that at home.
No, he couldn't.
Why not?
It's on the system here.
We can get the system at home.
You can't get the system at home. Too many passwords.
Shaka, did you like in the dressing room with someone who was like an idiot?
Like Paolo Di Canio.
Like Paolo Di Canio.
Yeah, Paolo Di Canio.
Paolo Di Canio. was what Don's saying resonating with you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything about it. But as Don was saying, sometimes players are just that talented. As a player, you accept it. You're waiting for the manager to do something about it. And if the manager doesn't do anything about it, that's on him. That's part of his job, and that's kind of how a lot of managers lose the dressing room when they don't recognise their own responsibilities.
It's a shame he left Celtic just before I got there.
Oh,
he did.
Yeah.
Him and George Cadet and Pierre Van Hooijdonk.
Okay.
They all just left as they got swept out, unfortunately, by the board. That would have been interesting.
Then how did you get on when you went to Celtic that first season?
Oh, I'm not telling you. You don't ask silly questions.
Bristol Rovers lost to Barnsley today, apparently, Nathan.
No, I didn't know that, but thank you very much for sharing
celebration.
Long may that continue. Yeah, that's the one.
For Nathan, favourite city or stadium you played in during your time in MLS? And what surprised you most about your time in the States?
My favourite stadium was Portland Stadium because it feels more European and they really get after it there with the crowd. It's usually always a sellout. You know, it makes for good games. Obviously, it's on turf, which isn't ideal, but that was good. And the thing that surprised me the most, as a negative in some ways, was probably that people's expectations that if you travel to do the conference, you're just going to lose. So they tend to just rest players all the time and go in there, just assume that everything's done and dusted from the get-go. That kind of blew my mind a little bit. But from a positive standpoint, there were lots of really, really good players. And obviously there's a mix, but there's some of the best players, you know, from around South America, Central North America, Europe and stuff. They go there, they're good, but unfortunately, like, the difference between the best and the worst is probably just a bit too wide at times.
And see these hybrid pitches in the States, when you make a slide tackle, do they take the skin off like the old days? No?
They do a little bit, yeah. They do a little bit. But, you know, I'm a culture defender. I don't really want to slide in too much. Just want to try and nick the ball. You know, all that stuff. Yeah, stay on your feet. Just read the game, jockey, all that jazz.
That's that sounds like Shaka.
Yeah, where did you enjoy playing, Shaq?
He doesn't want to dive either.
Do you remember any MLS matches you played in?
Do you remember you played in Major League Soccer at one point?
FC Dallas was good. I mean, that was our home stadium, but then I was there well before Nedum, and a lot of clubs still played at NFL grounds, university grounds. Most had AstroTurf pitches. FC Dallas was real grass. It was a good stadium. It was 75-80% full almost every single game. I enjoyed that.
The only one you can remember. The home match.
Did you dive at all? How many games did you play?
No, I'm a cultured goalkeeper. I like to stay on my feet.
Yeah.
Did you just
how many games did you play?
Shout instructions out?
I can't remember.
Double figures?
Yeah, I think I got the double figure.
Did your colleagues in the dressing room go, he doesn't have to take a lot of holidays? Or was that just here?
12 games apparently you played.
12? I got the double figures. There you go. Happy days.
2-2. Stevie outright dismissed Arsenal's chances of a top 4 finish despite winning at Palace. Would you serve the same dish to Liverpool after last night's draw?
What?
Yeah, Steve,
no.
Stevie got himself all in a...
Right, well that's Stevie, isn't it?
Yeah, Stevie got himself...
We went down a rabbit hole and he just stayed down there.
Yes,
rather than just come up and go,
after one game.
He said that Arsenal didn't impress him.
Yeah.
They went
well,
to
actually,
Palace
if you look at the result Palace got and how difficult they were to play against or beat, then actually it was a pretty good result for Arsenal at Selhurst Park. But no, I don't put Liverpool in that category, no. I don't, not at all.
VAR. Should it be used for yellow cards, blatant fouls, hair pulling, and the other conduct short of a straight red card, i.e. Romero on Cucurella?
I certainly think it should have been used for that Romero-Cucurella incident. That could have been interpreted as violent conduct very easily. But I don't want to see it used for more than it is. Yeah. I understand why they've kind of set those barriers, but I thought that incident had crossed that line.
Yeah, well, what's going to happen then is that it just continues to go, and then VAR's going to get involved in every little decision and free kick on the field that is wrong, and the game's going to take 3 hours.
Yeah, indeed, and you're a busy man, you want time for that.
He needs holidays, and I need to eat on my own.
Yes. Naden, did you ever pull anyone's hair when you were playing? Bit of Fellaini, maybe?
No, none of that. I usually took a couple of his elbows to my face, but never really pulled his hair, to be honest. But like with the Cucurella thing, like, so basically the video assistant has seen that his hair's been pulled and he says to the referee, oh, don't worry, he's only pulled his hair, you don't need to send him off. Like, basically tell him he's made a mistake. Like, that surely that should be able to help somebody get a red card, even if it's a second yellow. I think that's the thing that's missing for me.
It's interesting what Mark Clattenburg was saying last night, was that it isn't actually, as we were talking about at the weekend, it's not written in law. Yes. Obviously, because it's so unusual. So it must just be governed by a broader statement. But I suppose, I mean, everybody agrees it comes under the umbrella of violent conduct, but it just, I mean, I'm not saying pulling hair's ideal, but it doesn't seem violent to me in a sense. But I suppose if you put your hand in somebody's face, that is deemed violent conduct without punching them. So, but yeah, the laws are ambiguous sometimes. Do you know what that means?
At least you were playing. If you were playing these days, then you wouldn't have too many problems with people.
But I'm not playing these days, and I still have plenty of hair. By the way, yours is heading north as well.
Oh no, I haven't got. I haven't got your little circle on top.
Trust me, I can see your hairline going back.
No, mine will be there.
It'll soon be halfway down your back, and you're younger than me. Huh?
Have you told the story of when you used to work in the UK and you had to do the tactic cam?
Oh, Dickie Day, the director, when I was working at ESPN UK, and we did the live Saturday shows that Mr. Hislop came and worked on one with me and Kevin King, and they had this like tactics table that was like a huge iPad. Yeah. Right, and it had all the cameras where these cameras are, and then it had an overhead cam, and I could hear Dickie in my ear cutting to the overhead cam, and I used to put the arm out like this. And I could hear them laughing in my ear, right? And then I'd put my head in and they would go, got you! And then I'd finish the show and I'd say, did you cut to that overhead cam again? Dickie would be laughing about it, yeah. That was over 10 years ago, and it's grown in like, it's amazing. How's that nicely? It has filled out nicely, Craig.
It's the Antonio Conte school of hair.
No, not quite. But if I had to go down that road, then I would.
That would be the best day of my life, you coming in after having a hair transplant.
Well, I wouldn't come in the next day. Be a little bit more. Come in, be like Cucurella. Come in down here like Cucurella. Like, hey, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Have you had a hair transplant? I've got no idea what you're talking about. We do have a ex-colleague. We have people on this show that we're on this show that have done this. Yeah? They've been in for the old...
For Craig, if you were a teammate of Darwin Núñez, what would you have said to him in the dressing room after last night's game?
Nothing.
No, nothing needs to be said.
I've been sent off for stupid stuff.
Yeah, World Cup.
I got sent off at Dundee. And when I was there at the end of my career, because I wanted to catch a train back to Nottingham, I thought I'd have to leave early. But no, listen, silly things happen. I think if it happens with the same player 2 or 3 times and it's affecting you, then it's from a manager and senior players, it's like, right, come on, use the head. But no, not after one game, not
use the head as a case maybe. Naden, why is it that the Gab and Jules show always seems to have only one of them available, and perhaps yourself, Rob, or Don have had more appearances than them both? What we said on the show wasn't as good, the Ned and Jules show now.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is, but I don't have an invite to come back, so I don't think it's going to be running just quite like that. Yeah, you know, I'm just filling in. It's their show. Let them do what they do. They're very good at it. They watch a lot of football, and to be honest, to do it full time, I would have to do the same, and I don't have any interest in doing that just now. So yeah, let it be the Gab and Jules, and I'll fill in whenever they need something.
There you go. So, it doesn't matter. For all of them, have any of you had relatives being your agents at any point of time? If so, what if different than having a regular agent? Quite a few do. Sergio Ramos
No
brother,
is my answer.
No. You had the same agent as Gareth Bale, of course.
Yes. What?
Same attitude. One could say.
Same attitude as Gareth Bale. Who was your agent, Nathan?
So it was actually my mum working alongside other different agents throughout my career. So initially she helped me with my academy contract, then my first team contracts, and then she worked alongside a few different ones. And interestingly, I think if the person that Shaq is speaking about that represents Bale, I think she worked with him as well in terms of my deal to go to QPR. So she was always the one, and it was good. She was very good at it, and you also know she's got the right intentions in there. So that went a long way. So yeah, it was my mother.
Craig?
No.
No.
Family?
Family? No.
My mum, couldn't imagine my mum sitting there with a cup of tea, paper, reading glasses on, going, yeah. I mean, what would she know about it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
So no, just I used a couple of different agents over the years, but not family.
That is it. We are done. Thank you very much. We will be back.
Like Cucurella. I'll be back like Cucurella.
Oh, please, Craig, go and
How funny would that be?
It would be magnificent.
Well,
it would be so brilliant.
Well, the process takes a bit longer, but you know, it could sprout out.
It would be fun. Could you expense it?
Where's Sean? Sean Riley and our boss, or one of our bosses, and say, "What if I did that?
Yeah.
You think I could squeeze it through on the system?"
I think so.
He's pretty good that way, isn't he?
Well, I think it should be all right.
I mean, technically, it's a clothing allowance, isn't it? Really? But
yeah.
well, yeah.
I wouldn't try it. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh, all right, Shaq. I think that is it. We are. We're done. We're done. Enough on hair transplants. Are you back tomorrow, Craig?
Thursday.
Thursday.
I'm a Europa League guy.
Ah.
I've no idea why I said that.